Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. Thank you very much for tuning in and joining our OKR webinar live from Brno. OKRs, if anyone is unfamiliar, are objectives and key results. And I guess they could be defined as a strategic framework that defines and tracks companies' objectives and their outcomes. Joining me today is a very experienced panel from various companies operating in and around Brno. From kiwi.com, we have Mr. Jan Fried, Senior Investment and Business Development Manager, Strategist and Networker. Joining us from Muse.com, we have the VP of Engineering, Marian Kamenistak.
Hey guys.
Hope I pronounced that correctly.
Amazing.
And joining us from Kentico, we have Peter Schwilek, the founding member and head of developer relations team at Kentico. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. The days are finally getting longer and there's more of a sense of optimism in the air. Spring has arrived, so hopefully better days are coming for all of us. I'd like to invite the panel, perhaps Jan Fried, if he would like to perhaps share a little bit more about his career with kiwi.com and perhaps give a brief presentation. So over to you, Jan.
All right, thank you, Ken. Good afternoon, or almost evening, everybody. So my name is Jan Fried. I've been in kiwi.com for 3 years as a head of strategic planning. I'm responsible for the OKRs implementation and for overall strategic planning and company-wide alignment. So I've prepared a short presentation. I promised it won't take more than 10 minutes about kiwi.com and how we actually do the OKRs. So let me start with my slides here. So those of you who don't know kiwi.com, we are building a technology customer-centric platform to actually allow our customers to get from any A to any B anywhere in the world, and that's our major vision. We are deeply enthusiastic about traveling. We believe that travel actually opens minds, and I think that's something that the world really needs. And unfortunately, in a couple of quarters back, we were all stuck at home, and we were not able to really travel as we wanted. So we believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel coming very soon. So we all will be able to travel again soon. So a little bit about me. I started working with the OKRs like 5 years ago on small projects with different teams. And then I joined kiwi.com and I really started working with the OKRs on a larger scale. I would definitely say that this book changed my mind, or changed my life, kind of. The Measure What Matters. It's a must-read for everybody who would like to play with the OKRs. However, it really is just the beginning of the journey that we went through in the kiwi.com. So last couple of quarters, we've been really playing hard with the OKRs, and we've been really investing not only into our product, but also to the internal processes, and the OKRs are really helping us in this sense. So I would recommend everybody to go through the resources that I'm pointing out here. Not only John Doerr's Measure What Matters, but Marty Kagan's Inspired, Radical Focus, and my favorite blog from Philip Castro about the OKRs. We've been also consulting with some industry specialists, and we've been playing with some tools around. We've also established an internal team, and we call it the OKRs task force. We are always like discussing the ways how what would be the best way to actually play with the OKRs and how to implement it in kiwi.com. So Today, we are supposed to be really focusing on product and engineering, so I thought that this picture can really give you a sense of how wide the product and engineering is. And kiwi.com, we have 550 heads, we have several different domains, and our goal is to synchronize all of them, and we are using the OKRs to do so. This is the most important department in our company. It really allows us to achieve our vision, and we are trying to really align all the other departments and all these supporting departments to really focus on this one. So it also is heavily involved in our OKRs, and I would say that it's like 60 or 70% of all the objectives and key results on a company level. So how do we do, or how we see the OKRs? It really is a framework for us for three major benefits. One is the overall strategic alignment, vertical and horizontal. I will explain later what I mean. It also provides a framework for transparent communication, and it also provides a framework for effective resource allocation. It really gives us some fundamentals for regular discussions about what our vision is, what are our objectives, and how we really want to achieve them. It also helps us to fix a problem that we used to have, that we had a vision, we had a strategy on a company level, but then it's somehow dissolved in the company. So we are really trying to close this kind of like an air gap between the top levels of the company and all the initiatives and all the work that the teams are doing. So we actually implemented this two-level model of OKRs in kiwi.com. So we have the strategic OKRs that we plan for a whole year. So those are annual OKRs for us. Those are inspired by our strategic roadmap and our vision. Then every quarter we define our execution OKRs. Those are quarterly and those are more technical. And then we have initiatives, and those initiatives are coming from our teams, from the bottom up, as we call it. And those initiatives really are helping us to achieve our execution OKRs every quarter, making sure that we are on track and on progressing towards our goals every quarter. And those execution OKRs are then again aligned with our strategic OKRs as well. And every year we are reviewing our strategic roadmap, strategic OKRs. We are improving it. We are improving even the process based on the feedback, based on the surveys, and based on everything that we do around OKRs in kiwi.com. So a little sneak peek to a timeline, which is one of the major fundamental. We usually start thinking about the next year really in like Q2 with a company-wide survey. We analyze all the trends and we build a strategic roadmap. And based on that strategic roadmap, we define the new strategic OKRs for the next year. And that actually influences our quarterly planning as well. So every single quarter we are reviewing what we have as a strategic OKRs and the execution OKRs are supposed to be, as I said, aligned. So a little bit of a double click on execution OKRs as well. And every quarter, what we do, we have first months of preparation, and then we have 2 months of planning. So we try to draft the execution OKRs as soon as possible. We run the initiative owners survey. We analyze the trends and if necessary, we make any adjustments. And then we really try to define the new execution OKRs as soon as possible, so we can start the new quarter with a clear and clean execution OKRs. We also pay very much attention to monthly monitoring. So after every month, we track the progress, and that also is giving us some sort of like overview of how we are doing and what else we can do in the next quarters, right? The retrospective after every quarter is again giving us some intro, some inspiration or some feedback to the strategic OKRs that are also changing. So this is how the strategic roadmap looks like. We define our strategic pillars, the main areas, and then we define long-term themes. Those are the topics that are really we believe that we need to deliver in order to get closer to our vision and our ultimate goal. So here you can see we have four strategic pillars, and this is like a model of themes that we are taking into account, and we are getting inspiration for strategic OKRs. So you look at those themes, and for the year we basically define what are the objectives and what are the key results. The key results are metrics that are important, and we are always looking at those metrics during the period of the whole year. Then those strategic OKRs obviously are helping us to define those execution OKRs, and that those we are tracking on monthly basis. It's important to say that there's this preparation and the ideation and discovery of all those different initiatives that is ongoing, and we are continuously working on that. Here is another example of how we vertically align our initiatives with execution OKRs and with strategic OKRs. So you can see the dashboard that we are using. We are monitoring on quarterly basis our strategic objectives. We are monitoring on monthly basis our execution objectives. And here we have the dashboards for our initiatives, and there we track the key results on a monthly progress as well. So by this, we are closing this air gap and kind of like addressing the problem that we have. So the initiatives are actually aligned with the objectives. And last slide, that's the horizontal alignment. So basically we see those pillars, we see those objectives and how they are progressing. This is the last monitoring that we did basically yesterday. Those are our February objectives and key results. You see how we are progressing. You see that we might have some red flags here and there. You see that some of those are already really progressing more than 70%. So this is like a one slide or one screen where we see all those execution objectives and how they are progressing. So that's just for the beginning, for some sort of like a background. I'd like to pass the word now to Marian, and unless you guys in the panel have any questions for me right now.
Thank you very, very much, Jan. And I'd just like to say to anyone tuning in, if you have questions for Jan, or indeed for Marian or Peter, you can log on to slido.com, and the hashtag is OKR. So slido.com and hashtag OKR. Marian, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for the great introduction about the OKR session. So I really actually enjoyed the first piece here. So that's amazing. So once again, me being Marian, I'm in with Muse for about a year almost as a VP of engineering. And you know, surprisingly enough, I mean, in an ironic way, of course, I have to be responsible for, you know, how the OKRs are executed in real up to the sprints and, you know, development life cycles, etc. And that refers back to the gap we have seen before in the triangle, right? So in terms of Muse, the company is really about, you know, hospitality business. So we basically provide the SaaS business solution for the hoteliers, the companies, etc., which are doing the property management business. So this might be some sort of hotels, apartments, you know, whatever comes to your mind. So basically, I wouldn't say we are startup because as you can see, we are approaching the let's say the age of 2,000 different property owners, meaning from big hotels to the small properties. So that's basically the overview, and we are roughly about 200 people, and that comes back to like a division of R&D, meaning product management plus the developers of 60 people, right? So that's a brief introduction. I want to do any more marketing here. So let's jump quickly into the OKR. Of course, I have to say we don't have a specific, person or even a team taking care of our OKR system. So we are sort of trying to do our best and to come up with valuable improvements here. So, for example, one thing which we have made is that we actually moved from the 3-month quarterly cycle into the 4-month cycle, just to make sure that the pace of the goals is sort of more natural to us. That comes down to the important piece, which is crucial, of course, and that has been covered recently, and that's the preparation of the OKRs, and I will cover that with the sprint zero, and basically that's the sprint which translates into how the development teams adapt to the OKRs, and in order to make sure that it ends up in a successful way. And of course, we do all the ceremonies around, as they have been described, around the yearly strategic plans, the quarterly executions, the monthly reviews, etc. We are also using the GTM hub, which has been mentioned in a Kiwi, so that's great to see as well. The one thing, of course, and I'm going to say it loud here, is that the OKRs are, I would say, great way how to execute the high level goals within the company, and making sure that the feedback loop is sort of a shorter compared to 1 year cycle, etc. That's for sure. But the one thing which is challenging definitely is the how to make sure that you come up with great OKRs in the B2B sector. In our case, you might imagine it as a chain of hotels, which are those huge monsters such as Marriott, which are international, etc. And it's sort of more difficult to grasp feedback from them and to have some sort of a leading metrics as opposed to lagging metrics, right? In B2C, it's fairly easy because you measure the number of users, the number of, for example, in our case, the number of online checkouts, online check-ins, and all the end user interaction. That's more natural, and the feedback loop is much faster here. So that's not a surprise. So normally my recommendation would be to use OKRs only for mostly the B2C sector here. Moving on. Again, I don't want to make it too much monologue here, but there is one thing which I want to point your attention to, and that's basically the mission which I'm heading, which is about I want to make sure that the 80% of the key results are delivered from our engineering teams. And the way how I do it, or how we do it basically, is that I introduce the Sprint Zero, which is defined by four specific goals or ingredients, if you like. And these are basically about, of course, there's let's say the high level strategy or objectives, which comes from, let's say, top down. Uh, and we make sure that during the Sprint Zero, it's not about that teams are implementing something. It's more about that we give enough time to the teams to think about what's their strategy in order to make sure that they come up with reasonable outputs and outcomes in the end of the cycle, of the OKR cycle. So the number one thing, as the picture states here, is that we basically say what are our top, let's say, objectives divided per might be the teams or departments, and I want to make sure that each and every team has spent enough quality time thinking about what might be the different ways or alternatives, if you will, how to come up to the objective solution, right? So this way, in the previous slides, we saw the connotation of initiatives. Here we have the topics, and basically the epics, if you will. These are only the representation of the strategy, meaning like what are the milestones we want to see being delivered in a high level. I would say once in a month, I want to see the outcome of the epic, and that's the average epic duration in our case. And of course, the epic is then split into several tasks, which are going to be planned as the, let's say, sprint or Kanban, or what sort of methodology you have under the hood. Moving on to this one, Um, uh, so when we implemented the OKRs, of course, it's not an easy thing. And one thing which we discovered especially is that you know teams had no really opportunity to think about how much ambitious their let's say expectations are, and how much ambitious the path which they have chosen is in real. So basically, what we are doing here is that we make sure that, as you can imagine, after all the topics are split into the milestone, which we and here we talk about the epics, then we can do a nice comparison in between like what has been the history versus what's the planning here. And of course, if the planning is about like the double amount of the epics, then that rings a bell that we need to change the strategy in order to make sure that we deliver the results in the end of the day. So that is one thing. Of course, the initial epic solutioning, that's another part of the Sprint Zero, and that comes down, as we said, that we need to build an ammunition, if you will, before we start with the next OKR cycle, and that's really about making sure that the initial epics or the MVPs usually are split into specific tasks which are then planned into the delivery cycle, right? That's not a surprise. In other words, here we make sure that we can start right away after the next OKR cycle kicks in. And the one thing which I would hugely recommend, especially to the companies which sort of are at the beginning with their OKR journey or somewhat in the middle. This is the thing that people forget or used to forget about, and that comes back to you might experience the let's say the case of a team or several teams working still on something which are not really OKRs related, or it is sort of related to the OKRs. But nevertheless, these OKRs are coming from the the old period, or previous cycle, etc. And then there's a question arising like, where the hell is your progress? And basically, what I make sure is that we really shift the content of our backlog towards the new goals, because if you can imagine, if somebody like a stakeholder is asking a specific team to keep working on one special OKRs from the past, that is fine, but in that case it has to be reflected back to the epics, etc., the way that we are fully transparent, so we don't do some sort of pirate work when one stakeholder says we should be working on X while the other one are expecting to that we finish Y, etc., right? So that is one thing for sure that amazingly helps the teams, because you basically want to make sure that the level of inertia is not killing you from back, right? The way how we make sure that we invest valuable time or to let's say the goals and to the things that matter the most, meaning the things that are OKR related. We measure how much of our effort in cycle time all the teams are spending on the product roadmap, on the technical roadmap, and things which are off roadmap. And usually, you want to make sure that the overall roadmap contribution here is more than, I would say, 60%. But that depends, right? So you might experience a team. Actually, we have a team in Muse which is taking care of some sort of a more legacy stuff with plenty of support and maintenance. So the product roadmap or the roadmap in overall contributions could be something about, let's say, 45 or 40% only. That's fine. Nevertheless, for let's say the new top-notch features, or we also have specific teams which take care of some sort of internal startups. The roadmap contribution is set at something about 75%, right? So, and these are some sort of contracts which are holding us, and then we measure these indicators to make sure, once again, that the teams are spending their valuable time and investing that into the OKR or goals related things. And last but not least, this is a graph. Sorry to blur it somehow. I didn't want to expose the full roadmap and the details under the hood. Nevertheless, this chart or this report is doing a very similar service to us to interconnect the high-level topics with the development, with the work of the developers. So what's here basically is that we have also sort of automated reporting telling us like how many epics of a given objective or topic are already deployed, meaning you can see from scratch what's the I wouldn't say outcome, but output of the actual initiatives. The way how we use it, and the reason why I say it is only an indicator, not some KPI or metric, is that, as you can imagine, if you spot that the number of epics delivered is sort of highly low in a given, let's say for a given objective, then that rings a bell that we should be changing the strategy as soon as possible, because if we are let's say 1 month before the cycle ends, then that's already too late, right? If there is only like 35% completion. So by changing the strategy, I mean changing the epics and the way how we can approach, to come up to the final resolution here. So that greatly once again help us to make sure that in a sort of a preventive way that people or the tendency is going to be fully successful here. My apologies. The one thing to mention here is that, of course, these objectives are split, as you can see, into the following epics, basically. So there are the epics which are in progress, still like some sort of submitted in design, or the product phase in development, or the ones which are deployed. So that's about it. The very last thing I want to empathize here is that my experience tells me that if a team is receiving an objective, and you need to make sure that the objective is sort of of the top priority, and there is nobody like coming from whatever, let's say, side of the company, internally or externally, and trying to disturb the thing from the sales point of view or whatever, because you might be keen to help one or the other, which is totally fine, but it shouldn't be like destroying your own objective in order to having a full success and great marketing, so your team is treated as a successful one. Because as I'm saying, like, there is no no guy from the leadership board is really like keen to listen these like never-ending excuses that the reason why we haven't achieved X, etc. So with that in mind, please protect your goal, protect your team, and be able to say no to some of the things. So that's my lessons learned so far, and handing over to the next guy. So thank you for attention, and I think we'll go to the questions right after, right?
Thank you very much, Marian. I just want to remind listeners that if they want to submit a question, they can do so by logging on to slido.com, #OKRs, and we will get to your questions shortly. Peter, if you would like to give your presentation now, thank you.
Absolutely. Can you see my screen?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So hey all, thanks for having me today. My name is Petr Švihlík. I have a little bit different background than the other two gentlemen here. I lead a team of awesome developer advocates for Kentico. And if you by any chance happen to know a little bit about developer advocacy or developer relations in general, you might also know that there are just too many activities to choose from, and many of them overlap with other departments like marketing and engineering. So my team uses OKRs mainly as a tool for strategic alignment and cross-department alignment. They help us pick the best possible tactics at any given moment and stay flexible and focused. I have to say that OKRs saved us a lot of trouble, and therefore I also like to share my experience and knowledge outside of my team. And in the past, I helped several different teams across Kentico to shape up their OKRs. And obviously, I'm here tonight to share a little bit of my experience with you. A little bit about Kentico. Kentico is a content management systems vendor. We've been around since 2004. We're located in Brno, but we have offices and customers all over the world. We introduced OKRs in the summer of 2018 as what I would call a climax of our results-oriented work environment transformation. And we used it as a replacement for another goal-setting framework that we used previously, which was called 4 Disciplines of Execution, mainly because we found OKRs more focused on business outcomes. It was quite a journey for us. And along the way, we faced several different problems. First of all, explaining the employees what's the purpose of the whole thing. What happens if we fail to deliver an objective? What happens if we succeed? What happens with the data when people report it every week? Secondly, mapping the existing workload to newly defined objectives, or dealing with the workload that needs to be done anyway. Another problem might be misunderstanding the difference between work output and the business outcome. The problem of having nothing to report, which often leads to demotivation of people. And lastly, switching the tactics when a key result is not progressing as we would wish. So I hope these points will serve as an input for our discussion. I also published an article about these problems called 7 Deadly Sins of OKR. So if you're interested, read it and feel free to reach out. I'll do my best to help you out. And I believe that concludes my introduction, and switching back to Ken.
Perfect, Peter. Thank you very much. So I've mentioned already Slido to the audience, but based on those initial presentations, gentlemen, I'm pretty sure that you have questions and comments to make to one another. So I would like to invite you at this point to commence the discussion. And if you have questions about each other's presentations, or if you're curious about how things operate within each other's company, feel free to comment on that.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Maybe one thing, if I may open the discussion. To me, like the most interesting topic is how we basically make sure that there's the bottom-up approach from gathering the ideas or making sure that things are going expected. So, for example, in kiwi.com or in Kentico, do you do some sort of a special, let's say, brainstorming session for that purpose, or how that works in real? So that's the ultimate question from my side.
So if I can take this one first.
Yeah.
So yes, that was a very important topic for us. The OKRs were always observed like a thing for the management that was so pushed from top down.
Totally.
Like these are the objectives and you guys do whatever. So we actually improved that recently. We really are pushing for bottom-up participants as much as possible. We even established a non-official survey. So we basically try to communicate what is the draft, what is the overall like general idea about how the OKR should look like. But then on quarterly basis, we're asking all the team leaders and managers, we call them the initiative owners, to actually comment and give us some more ideas and give us some their suggestion from their particular fields, because that's what we are ultimately looking for, right? Those guys who are really super deep and super focused on specific idea. We need to hear them. We need to know what they can do in order to help us achieve what we want to achieve. So we are pushing a survey on a quarterly basis on the management level, mid-management level. That those are the initiative owners, and on an annual basis, we are actually we are gonna do it for the first time this year in Q2, the company-wide survey that we will basically share all the details about the strategic roadmap, about all the drivers and everything, and everybody in the company should or could participate on this survey and give us some ideas. And I have to say, in Q1 we ran that survey and it was super interesting, and we had such a great feedback and like suggestions and ideas that were not on the table. So we improved the draft pretty dramatically.
I love it.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that as well. I think this is very much related to people's autonomy. At Kentico, we are very much focused on giving people both responsibility and autonomy, and we encourage people to start with a clear table with when defining initiatives, and then there is like a round trip from bottom to up and back down, just to make sure all the key results and initiatives are aligned. Now, recently, we've started experimenting with creating, let's say, work groups of people from different departments who sync and brainstorm the ideas, so that we cover the whole, let's say, the whole story from engineering something to promoting it to selling it, so that the whole life cycle or the whole product life cycle is covered.
Amazing. Thanks. I guess we can go down to the questions in a Slido, right?
Sure. I'd just like to say to the audience, to the listeners at home at this point, there's a lot of information coming in with the presentations, and perhaps some people would like to, rewatch and re-listen and digest some of this. So I just want to say that this webinar will be available on YouTube at /code.kiwi.com, no dot, so code.kiwi.com, if they want to play it back at a later point. Okay, gentlemen, feel free at any time, to bring anything up. I think we'll go to some of the questions, and we'll open it up a bit more. But absolutely feel free at any time to comment. So the first question, of course, it's quite a long question, so bear with me. I believe it's addressed to the panel, so it's not addressed to someone in particular. So feel free to comment. How do you manage that the entire company vision is shared with individual teams, and there is a space for collaboration between the teams to achieve common objectives? Do you, for example, arrange a regular meeting or meetings when teams share the results after each quarter? And is planning individual or collaborative? So that's quite a mouthful. So just take a moment, and whoever wishes to comment, feel free.
Yeah, if you allow me. I actually like the question, because usually you are coming to the difficulty with managing the dependencies between the teams, and it's often the case that one single objective is about to there is several teams contributing to one single objective, right? So you need to manage the dependencies in a certain way. That's really about the planning of the initiatives, or epics, if you will. Depends how we call it. That's for sure one thing here. So basically the one check which we do is that after we get out with our strategies about how to achieve a given objectives, we make sure that there's the dependency, chain or metrics, if you will, covered as well. And that's basically mostly about the team leads and the product managers who are responsible to have a common meeting and agree on what are the interdependencies and the priorities here. And of course that starts having with the big discussion of if I'm dependent on X on a team X, then that should be done prior to something else, etc. But actually that's the discussion you want to have and you want to lead, because as opposed to, let's say, letting that off, and all of a sudden you find out that the level of dependencies is gonna kill you, right? So one thing to say here, in regards to the first question from my side at least, is that in our case it's up to the team, meaning the product manager and the team lead, that all the teams have a common talk, and it's about them to come to a different team and tell them, okay, there is a dependency and I'm dependent on you, so what are we gonna do about it? Is it gonna be like part of your team roadmap as well? Tell me yes or no. And that gives the team a clear signal whether they can count with something or not. Yeah.
So I see two parts of this question. So one is about the communication and the other one is about the collaboration itself. So in terms of communication, we are using Confluence. So we share everything that the senior management and executive board would like to share regarding the vision, regarding the trends and where we are actually heading. We're also sharing a lot of information during our all hands and now actually weekly online briefings. So the CEO is actually sometimes commenting on in specific times when needed, because it's not really on a weekly basis. It's really sometimes it's on quarterly or on annual basis. Like if there's any changes in the vision itself. The collaboration, the second part. We used to be really hands-on on organizing focus groups per execution objectives and running those meetings and inviting a lot of people in the room, but then we realized that maybe a little softer approach is better, and we basically dedicate owner to execution objective, and that is a senior manager, and he uses his abilities to coordinate the teams that he needs to work with. And I find this probably more beneficial that somebody owns it, they feel the responsibility, and it's up to them whether they are meeting at Bistro, whether they are using Slack channels, or whether they are meeting in a virtual conference room.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Jan and Marian. Does anyone else want to comment on this before we move forward?
No, not really from my side.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question then. Setting up OKRs in R&D, what are your thoughts on roadmap versus OKRs?
I can comment on that a little bit. I might be the devil's advocate here. To me, like OKRs is a change framework. It should promote change of processes mainly. So we often see engineering teams or R&D teams planning things on the roadmap as OKRs. And I believe it's not always necessary. I would say if you're happy with your roadmap, with the areas of focus in your product, with how the features are being delivered, and basically about the whole process, then there is not much to change, ergo no need for OKRs. So I think OKRs can be great for introducing new areas of focus or improving processes, etc. I think Marian might have a little bit different view on that.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So That's actually a very good question, because there's a never-ending battle about people are thinking about like either we do OKRs or the roadmap. But in our case, the way how we regard it is that we do combination, meaning like we have for sure the OKRs. That's the top priority of speaking of the company level. Nevertheless, to us or to me, the roadmap is only some sort of a representation of the milestones in a way how we want to achieve the OKRs in within the quarter. So that's the way how we treat it. So to me, this is the sort of a combination, right? And what's important to mention here is that to me the roadmap is not something which is set in stone. So it's really about the teams to make the change here and there, for the sake of achieving the objective, of course. But what's great if you have some sort of the milestones or the visual of the OKRs, but that's basically what Jan shared as well with us. It might be called some sort of a milestone sequence in regards to achieve something. That's really helpful, because the great I would say detail to it is that really interconnects the high level with the development efforts, etc. So it's definitely true that we do sort of combine it. Nevertheless, to me, once again, the roadmap is just a representation of the strategy, right?
Yep, let me comment on that as well. Very interesting question, and good answer, Marian. In our case, there is a benefit of that two-level model. So the strategic OKRs, for that we actually need to have some sort of like a general roadmap. To have some sort of like an idea of what different domains have in plan for a long time, and then we come to defining the OKRs, and we see what we can prioritize and how we can change it and shift it and define the OKRs, and then those strategic OKRs are giving inspiration for quarterly roadmaps and any changes that needs to be made, because now you see what metrics are important, so you need to change your roadmap based on what you see on the strategic OKRs, and then you're getting into execution OKRs. And those might be changing the roadmap in a given quarter. Hope it's clear.
So does execution OKR for you mean like that you are tracking some leading metric for the engineering teams instead of lagging metric, that you rather measure the work output rather than the actual impact, or is it not the case?
In our case, the execution OKRs, the key results and targets are metrics, outcome, but those are just quarterly outcomes that are supposed to be helping us to achieve the longer term key results. In terms of the simplest metric would be the revenue, right? So you have annual revenue, and then you have revenue per different quarters.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, one thing to mention here from my side is that coming back to the roadmap, to me it is just a sequence of the milestones or epics, as we said. So and one thing which I am asking the teams in particular is that before you start working on an epic, please make sure that the first thing which you do is some sort of a solutioning, meaning like think twice about how you want to implement the epic. That's not rocket science here, but there is actually, from the other side of the spectrum, after the epic is deployed, there is the question which every team and should be asking, and that's about am I still good in terms of my strategy in order to achieve the overarching goal here, and that creates the basically the time when you are not going blindly following the strategy which you have designed before, but basically you can still steer in order to make sure that you greatly improve the probability that at the end of the day you will achieve the expectations, and your team will be treated as successful. So that's one tip which I might recommend here, meaning like ask after each iteration to review the strategy for the team. Yep.
You gentlemen. The next question, I guess, is kind of aimed at Jan, but anyone can offer their opinion. How does OKRs approach reflect fast changing companies in brackets kiwi.com in a turbulent environment, COVID. You talk about planning a year ahead.
Yeah. So last year was quite interesting in terms of planning, definitely. It hit us lately in Q1, I believe, and in Q2, Q3, it was really interesting ride because we really need to review all we've been doing. OKRs is a good ground that you're standing. You have some sort of you have a long-term vision that you don't want to abandon. You have some sort of like a strategy. You know where you're actually going in long term. So you're basically making some adjustment here and there, and yeah, trying to adjust it to the situation. And I have to say that for some it's well, OKRs are not set in stone. You can iterate them on a quarterly basis, the long one, the monthly basis as well. I hope it helps.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you here because Muse is a hospitality service provider, so we were hit heavily by COVID. Fortunately, it sort of helped us to an amazing level. But to be really open with you, when the COVID kicked in, we basically dropped our focus from OKRs totally, and we relaunched the OKR system after I would say 5 or 6 months, because it had not really purpose, and we had other more high priority things to resolve, as opposed to taking care of a system or whatsoever. So yeah, that's the reality which we were facing.
But Marian, may I ask you, have you guys changed anything on your like a long-term vision or strategy where you?
Yeah, we did. I mean, yeah, we absolutely did. And I mean, with the COVID, there was like new markets, and we decided that we go towards some sort of more enterprise markets, as opposed to some smaller fishes to fry, etc. So there was quite a lot of things actually. We also changed our mission and the strategy. If truth being told, we had to lay off some of the people, of course, but at the end of the day, as far as provocative it might sound, it's turned into a good outcome actually. So that's the lesson learned we experienced here.
Right. I guess in both sectors that you two gentlemen have mentioned, like the hospitality and travel, I guess it is inevitable that the bounce back will happen, and when it happens, it will be very aggressive, and you can shape your OKRs accordingly.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about OKRs, speaking retrospectively, is that the good ones survive and the bad ones are leaving from your segment. So that's the long story short. I might be opening here.
Yeah, well, the processes and the fundamentals helped us to steer the discussions and reevaluate what we are focusing on, and. Well, we believe that our vision, what we really want to achieve, is valid even during the crisis, and we've been investing into product features that really we believe are here to stay and will help us really at the moment when the market kicks in to really even like get more market share. And,
I'm totally with you, Jan, because I regard this sort of crisis as some sort of a test experience in terms of how well is the leadership of the company, basically. Because if you don't act upon, like, let's say, these situations, then there's no surprise you end up badly. But if the leadership is able to steer the wheel, it might be even drastic in a drastic way. Then there's that's the definite, let's say, confirmation that you are within the right company. That's about it.
And don't get me wrong, we've iterated our targets because we were rebudgeting. We were making changes, but overall, we still deeply believe in our mission and vision, and that's the most important part.
Yeah. I mean, now we speak about like, rose castles, etc. But, in the middle of the crisis, that was really like absolutely difficult and nightmares, people not being sleeping, etc. Right. So that's the other reality of, the things which we speak about.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll move on. Mikhail has a question. Thank you, Mikhail. What are the best practices to prevent OKRs enforcing a waterfall-like production and maintaining agility?
Quick one from me. Focusing on outcome. You can be agile, but you still need to keep in mind where you're going. That's what the OKRs are telling you. Finding the best way, it's on the team, but really keeping in mind what's the long-term vision and what's the quarterly target.
I think OKRs, from their very nature, enforce you to act in an agile manner. They force you to re-evaluate your strategy on a regular basis, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, if I see this question, it rings the bell that you have an OKR system in place, but you don't actually have the feedback loop implemented, as we say, meaning like there is no retrospective or the feedback or these sort of things. So it might be the case that your company is not steering and adjusting the strategy accordingly, which comes back to, sorry to say, might be a sort of a weaker management, not being able to make changes, etc. So basically, it comes down to the very same way as we speak about, let's say, development sprint cycles, etc. So if you don't have the feedback will being implemented in terms of the review and retrospectives, then no surprises. You can't steer fast enough.
Yeah, that's a perfect point. And I have to say, what helped us really very much was a feedback loop that's happening like every week, every Tuesday. There is an update from the executive team who collects feedback from all the representatives of all the departments and feeds it back to the company. And it's a tremendous way to stay focused and to understand what the other teams are doing at the moment.
Next question, guys. We'll move on. I'm just conscious of the time. Martin asks, how often do you check in on strategic versus tactical OKRs?
Let me take this one as I was presenting this kind of like two level. So the strategic are annual, so we are checking progress every quarter, and the tactical or execution OKRs are quarterly, so we check the progress every month. And we do organize this kind of like a monthly monitoring where we review all those execution objectives, track the progress, even making changes, even iterations on targets, even on initiatives. What as I was showing on the timeline, you're planning it way ahead. So after the first month, you see what initiatives really bring value, what doesn't, and you're able to change it or just comment on it. And you can also see how the other objectives are performing, and if you see that somebody is actually overperforming something, then you can eventually move some resources to some other area where you see that you're lacking behind.
Yeah, I have to say I had nothing to add on top of that. You are even further than we are in Muse actually, because the strategic OKRs, we don't have that in place. Nevertheless, we have the strategic 2 years execution plan. So it's not like 1 year execution. It's about like 2 years vision, if I may put it this way. And we aligned the quarterly or trimester OKRs to the strategy. So that's our way how we make sure that the strategy is still followed.
Marianne, the next question is specifically for you.
Okay.
You were talking about the protection of your team, about the protection of the goal of your team. But what if the goal of another team is more important than the goal of my team?
Yeah, that makes me think about that, the dependencies hasn't been resolved properly during the brainstorming or preparation session, meaning like to be more practical, let me tell you how we do it. Basically, I ask the teams to come up with their strategies at the meeting where everybody presents the ways how they want to achieve their goals. And these strategies are split into three different sections. The first section is the one which covers the OKRs that are split into the epics, meaning the strategy. The second section, these are the OKRs which are there, and you want to work on those, but these are the ones that other teams are dependent on, meaning you are helping other teams to succeed in the OKRs. And the third one, we have a third section, which is I would say not OKR related, and that's some sort of internal things about, like, we might be working on feature X, or this is a technical debt, or this is a technical improvement, and that's fine. But in overall, if you can imagine the picture of having these three sections, and each of the section has a specific content of epics, right? So the milestones, and the question which kicks in is about let's have a look into the strategy, and we might be saying, have a look into the history, and we might be saying that in the last OKR cycle we were able to accomplish I don't know, 27 epics, right? So why do I think that actually you are presenting me like 40 epics? Let's put it this way. So let's have a conversation about what are the things that are of the top importance. And of course, here we speak about, like, we treat the epics the way that in a very simple way. What's the impact versus what's the effort here? And that creates the discussion of what is really on the table here, and what is going to be worked on or not. And of course, if you don't have such discussion, then there is no surprise that you, as maybe a team lead, is having hard times, and your team is not considered to be having a great marketing and being successful here. But one thing which I was going to say is that it should be really about the early stage of the planning, where all the teams comes in and discuss the dependencies between, right, and their capacities, of course. Up to you guys how you treat this situation. Would be really keen to hear that.
If I may, as I said in the beginning, like in developer relations, we have a huge overlap with many other teams and departments. So this is kind of relevant to us. It's pretty common that that we create sub-objectives under someone else's objectives, or we act as contributors. We're just basically trying to find a place where we can be most helpful. So I don't think it always has to be like a problem of planning or setting dependencies. It's just finding the most impact or the most impactful objective that you can contribute to.
Yep.
So after all, it's about collaboration, right? And when you don't know, you can also escalate and ask the executive board what they think. That's the extreme point. But sometimes you are just focusing more on one thing, and you're just failing one key result, and that's just not an issue if you are able to explain why are you not investing into this one. I mean, again, the OKRs in our world are not really connected with the performance management of the teams. It's really about the communication, what's important, and what are the objectives, and how we measure success. But as a team, as a company, right? And sometimes you just need to prioritize one or another, and just what's important is to communicate that clearly.
Agreed.
Okay, makes sense. One or two more questions, gentlemen. I'm just conscious of the time. There are plenty coming in. Perhaps, if you care to mention, are there any good or effective alternative approaches to OKRs worth mentioning? If there aren't, don't mention.
That's up to you, Jan. You read most of the books here.
I don't have any better alternative.
Yeah, if I may comment on this one, there's the OKR approach, and it all comes down to what's the feedback loop, meaning if the goal is specified for quarter, for half year, or for the whole year. That comes back to the leadership board decision, like what they want to have their let's say feedback loop in terms of the duration, right? But one thing which I want to point out here is that I normally would not advise to implement OKRs to the companies that have no leaders worth following, if I may put it this way, because as the OKR system is more challenging, you really have to have specific managers or leaders that are really keen to being responsible for specific objectives. So I have seen some of the companies which I would not really recommend to change to the OKR system, because actually that would be held to them, and in practice that would decrease their performance in the end of the day. Not sure, guys, whether you experienced some sort of a similar situation here.
True, yeah, and it is a little bit painful process to really align all the things, but I see an ultimate benefit, and I would even encourage larger organizations, even governments, to think about what is the purpose, what are the objectives, what are the priorities, what are the best metrics that matters, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Another good question has come in from Martin. How do you go about teams which find it difficult to create proper outcomes as the key results? Do you sometimes accept milestones as the key results, or should the key results be outcome based only?
Quick one. I would see this as a red flag. If you have a team working on something and they are just delivering something and they are really focusing on the output, like saying, hey, I did this, it's a wrong approach. You should be always asking yourself, like, what would change if I deliver this? And I would always be looking at the outcomes of my initiatives.
And I think that sorry.
However, it might be very difficult and two-edged sword, because sometimes there's no other way how to report your progress, that you need to just deliver something and then you see.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. That's the reason why this whole framework distinguishes between the key results and initiatives, where the initiatives are basically the work output. So the framework encourages you to think about the outcome all the time.
A little disagreement. Even the initiatives can have the outcomes here. So it's the work that we are working on. It could be just delivered. Yes, it's most common to have like an initiative delivered, but even the initiatives on that level can have a little bit like a smaller granularity of metrics that can influence the metrics on the execution level.
Right.
In our case in Muse, I have to say we are sometimes struggling with, of course, having a great metrics indicators which are of the leading manner, And it happens sometimes that the key results, we call it that they are of the binary fashion, if you know what I mean, meaning like whether the output has been delivered or not. But we try to keep it at a minimal, amount here, because some of the things might be reflected in half a year, after half a year period, etc. So that comes back to like what's your market segment, etc. in your domain. So sometimes we cannot avoid it. Nevertheless, it's really difficult sometimes to have a connection to real outcomes. Of course, it's doable, and we are getting there. I would say. Not sure, guys, what's your experience here, but sometimes you have to break a rule a little bit because the OKRs, to me, in my book at least, is some sort of an aspirational way how to treat the goals. And it doesn't mean that it has to be 100% compliant with everything, because there's a path towards it. So reading the book, that's one thing, but the other thing, how to come up to that stage, that's a different talk here.
I would agree that it's always.
Would you agree with what Marian said there? That last comment about it's kind of an aspirational goal, and
I would agree that it's aspirational, but I would also say that if you can't come up with a good metric, then why to have it?
Yeah, totally. Like, this is an edge case, right? So yeah.
Sometimes, interesting cases, we had a key result to just really make sure that we deliver that metric. And from when we think about something important to measure and we don't have it yet, then we have a key result that in a given quarter we just define that metric, and that's an output based. You just define it, right? And then you start using it. So that happened to us.
Interesting.
Yeah, happened to us as well.
Well, on top of that, sorry again to prolong it a little, by 30 seconds, but for sure, guys, that there are some companies which have dropped OKRs actually because it causes them, to work too much on the metrics as opposed to the real, outcomes. But it might be, some sort of a short side trick at the end of the day. That really depends, right? Netflix, for example, etc. Right?
And therefore, I would just recommend to use OKRs as soon as possible for the company, so they can so the company can really get used to it, and you don't need to like transform something, right? Or
Yep, makes sense. Perfect.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Peter, you wanted to say something. I jumped into your sentence. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to say that I wrote an article on this very topic only. Yeah.
Great, and if we want to access that, Peter, where can we get it? If you could send it to us, we can make it available anyway.
Absolutely.
Great, thanks. Next question, Jerzy, are you using OKRs also for capacity planning of teams for next quarter or next year, say?
Marian, I would be interested in your response.
I was talking in terms of the capacity to make sure that the team doesn't brutally overcommit in a certain way. That's something I really experienced within the first let's say 2 OKR cycles, that it was like some sort of a I would refer to a crystal ball that we might be able to accomplish X, but at the end of the day, how the world's going, that there might be other initiatives, etc., or some sort of outages which you need to take care of it and handle, etc. So speaking in terms of the capacity, that's to me a rough double check that we don't overcommit like by huge let's say double amount compared to what we have delivered in a past quarter, for example, right? And that gives me some sort of a indicator, and I wouldn't say metrics, that the OKRs are set in a way that they are slightly ambitious, but it's not a killer situation, or we don't undercommit, etc. I know it's some sort of a trick here, we might be, moving away from the capacity check. Nevertheless, this is the way how I make sure that the teams are, fully aligned in terms of their throughput.
Yeah, I think the way to do it is to be aware of the current capacity and make sure you don't create unrealistic number of themes or topics or key results.
Yeah.
Here's also sorry.
Sorry, because the one thing which I experienced that, if for example you have a sort of a more junior product manager or the team in overall, they are not able to say no, if you know what I mean, for sure. And everybody has experienced that situation. So that this is just the way how I make sure that the things are going in the right direction. Sorry to interrupt you, Jan.
It's fine. What I wanted to say is just the retrospective also helps you to prevent that, because, well, in retrospective you can take a look back and see, well, we have not delivered this one. Why? Because we actually overpromised. So now let's take some lessons and learn from it, and then next time just don't do it, right?
Yeah, sure.
Hey guys, just a couple more questions, and then I want to give the panel an opportunity, maybe before we finish, to perhaps you have a couple of questions to ask each other as well. Okay, so thank you, Hansa. Do you all keep the objectives transparent? If so, which tool or process do you use for this?
Oh my God, yes, transparency is a key here. And we've been playing around with the GTM hub, and we right now run our OKRs in cheat sheets because of the transparency, because of that freedom, because GTM hub was guiding us at the beginning with the right principles, but at the end of the day, we were not really super happy about the tool itself. So we have it all in our own G sheet that I shared in the presentation, and those are transparent, and everybody can take a look and see. And as I was saying, we have some other ceremonies to comment on the progress, to comment on iterations, and share this publicly via Slack or even sometimes at the all hands or WOBs, weekly online briefings.
Yeah, in our case, we are actually using the GTM hub, which we feed sort of manually, right? So we sort of update the progress there. Nevertheless, we combine it with the automation, which I have just shown recently, and that's telling us like what's the desired output as an indicator towards that. So that makes the thing that combines all together the right level of transparency. And I really love what you've been saying, and that transparency is key here, because without that, everything goes to nobody understands the way we should be driving, and people would be working on too many different things at the same time. So that's something really to avoid here.
Right. We started with Confluence. Then we migrated to a tool, name of which I can't remember, but we ended up using Purdue, which gives us a nice hierarchical view and regular check-ins and all these kind of functionalities. But I would say for someone just beginning with the OKRs, I would say now in 2021, it's fine to start with Confluence. They have plenty of templates for OKRs, so it's a good starting point if you don't want to invest in an expensive tool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but a slight disagreement again. I would just start with the pen and paper and the G sheets, and once you find your own way, then you can you could just use the some tools. I've been really trying hard to find the best tool, and that's just my 2 cents recommendation.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, what's the best in your eyes, if I may put it this way. That there might be the thing that people are not, some of the people are not there yet, so it might be like beneficial to them to have some sort of example they can refer to.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, sure, yeah. That was part of the journey.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, guys. One more question from the audience, and I just want to remind everyone listening that, you know, obviously there's a lot of information going out there, and you can rewatch all of this webinar on the YouTube Kiwi page, which is the code.kiwi.com. Okay. Final question from Martin. How do you report on key results that have no results through the quarter, 0%, and get the results in the last few weeks before the end of the quarter?
That's totally normal. And sometimes we don't even have the progress. We just have Boolean 1 and 0, yes, no. And it's just a question of monitoring during the quarter. You basically take a look where we are, and you know what, maybe it could be a project that you are planning to deliver in the last month. So it's natural that in the first and second month there will be no progress, right? It's just you know what, I still believe that the OKRs are very much a social and soft factor. Sometimes, you know, you don't really need to stick too much into the metrics itself, and it's rather like what the metrics are telling you, and what are you and how are you actually explaining them, and what story are you saying and telling with those metrics.
Mm-hmm. I would say this is something that is partially solved by the presence of initiatives there, because at least you can track whether you're putting effort into those key results. And if there is no effort, then there is something really wrong.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing that reminds me is that recently I read an article about how to exactly how to, let's say, present your progress in terms of OKRs. And the idea that was really interesting was that people shouldn't be saying what's the progress. They should rather be saying like what's their confidence level that they will deliver the key results at the end of the day. So you can imagine the situation that, as you are saying, like you are still at 0% for a longer period of time. Nevertheless, your confidence could be like 80% that you're going to deliver the outcomes, and that's great. So before that might be like a month ago. Before that could be like you know, earlier 60% only. But you know, that's something which I would really love to implement in Muse as well, because I'm not really interested in what's the progress as opposed to what's the confidence. Because at the end of the day, you speak about, as you are saying, that OKRs are a social thing. So you speak about what's the level of trust. We trust each other, that at the end of the day, the results will be put in place.
That's a really interesting idea. I would like to read that article.
Yeah.
I believe that GTM Hub provides that feature as a default, right? So you can actually.
I'm not aware of that, I have to say.
Yeah, I believe so. And I run into some issues with that, because, well, people start like wondering. So okay, so what is my confidence? I don't know. Is it 6, 7, 8, 9? And they start.
It doesn't really matter, right?
Exactly.
So in my book, it's about like if somebody says that his confidence is above 80%. Then that's ring the bell, and we should be thinking about changing the strategy, right, and having a separate discussion about it. But that's about it, right? So because, to be honest, even the leadership is not curious about the progress in terms of the metrics. What they are curious about is that, can I trust you that it's going to end up as a success at the end of the day, right? And that's what the confidence is all about.
Well, but technically this is a secondary metric, right? Because, well, the leadership
it is, and
should be looking at the key
yeah,
results first,
and of course, one thing to say in loud is that it is some sort of a, you know, educated guess, right? So nevertheless, to me, if I trust the people who a guy who says a certain number of in terms of the confidence, then it gives me like greater, let's say, insights about like what's under hood.
And one more comment. The monitoring and the comments itself are sometimes super important, because you might be responsible for a metric that somehow changed even without your your contribution. And it's fair to say that, you know what, guys, we were supposed to, I don't know, close this or achieve that, but you know what, we actually failed with our prototype. But you know what happened? Sometimes we did that. So that's like a self-commenting on what's going on, you know, and it could be negative and positive, you know, both sides. And then you start like maybe also reiterating the targets. You know, sometimes you felt like 10 would be a lot, but then you realize that you've achieved 11 for some reason, and then it's fair to say that maybe the target should be closer. That's why it's also tricky to connect it with the performance management, because you really need some sort of like a insight on what the metrics are telling you.
Yeah, I would never connect that with the performance reviews, because that's way too high. Because you want to make sure that you know, you are well motivated and performing teams, as opposed that, you know, doing some sort of guessing from the crystal ball that, you know, your metrics should be, you know, delivering X percentage increase in terms of the revenue. It's not something you want to have. Of course, we don't speak, for example, about, it might be like relevant to marketing and to sales people, because they are working in a very different way. But to me, at least, in terms of engineering, you want to make sure that your people are with you in long term, right? So it's not like really volatile and depending on you know, what was the measure of the outcome, right?
Yeah, I would say that the only connection to the performance review should be in terms of how are you actually approaching the OKR framework, how strict you are, how agile you are in terms of changing your tactics under your key results and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like it. Meaning, like, you could be asking the guy, have you come with some, I would say, improvement or the other, you know, alternative how to approach a specific goal in a better way. That's a reasonable thing. Yeah, I like it. Definitely.
And the problem that would be connected with the performance management if somebody does not report it at all.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And thank you, people at home, for submitting some very, very good questions. I'd just like to give the panel, before we finish up, an opportunity if they have any comments or questions to the other fellow panel members. So if you have anything to say, feel free to do it now.
Actually, I have to say, all the questions were really interesting to me, and I learned quite a lot how, you know, Peter and Jan, you're approaching the OKRs in overall. You know, it was really enriching to me, and I also have written some notes how to improve the things. So by all means, I'm good.
The same for me. Thanks, guys, for your inputs. I'm very pleased that there are some companies in the Czech Republic who are so advanced with this framework, and that we can spread the knowledge. That's perfect.
I also thank you guys for helpful advices. Marian, on engineering level, we definitely need to improve it. I liked your article. It's super almost like scientific. I like that. So thank you guys for some advices.
Well done, gentlemen, and it's been enriching for yourselves, and I'm sure it's been enriching for the audience at home. And I'd just like to thank you all for your time and for sharing your extensive knowledge and experience. And I hope to see you all again on another webinar in the future. So that brings us to the end of this OKR webinar. And I'd just like to wish everyone a safe week, and take care.